thank you for being here with me today, Justin, taking time to chat.
Thank you, Stacy.
It's nice to see you. I'll take a moment just to introduce you really quick to the people who are watching. For those that don't know you, you recently founded Root and River. How old is Root and River now?
Well, it feels like a million years old as far as an idea, but as an actual company, we formed the company in early 2015 and then officially launched it January 21st of 2016.
That's great.
So it's 2 months old. We're in the poopy diaper phase of a startup.
With your business partner, Emily, who's amazing.
Yeah, Emily Sikorski. She lives in Scottsdale, and she is awesome.
She is. And I love the way that you put this. You help brands organize around their belief systems, which is so unique. And you believe that entrepreneurism begins in the heart. And you're always, I've noticed on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you're always talking about truth and just connecting to the heart, which is a really cool message.
Yeah, thanks. I really do believe that nothing else matters until you connect to your heart. And somehow we've created detachment from the three things that we all have a charter to do. We all have a charter to live, yet we make intellectual-based decisions and suppress our hearts. We all have a charter to lead, and if we lead with our hearts, we're told that that's weak, but it's not. And if we brand with our hearts, we automatically add value to the world. And you get out of the, but when you lead with your heart or when you brand with your heart in the middle of things, you're essentially just inviting people to believe what you believe. And there's nothing more powerful than that. So it's really a charter for me to help entrepreneurs in particular and business owners understand that if good is going to happen in the world, it's going to start first in the heart of an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and one of the things I really like about the way you approach your work with clients and the things that you share on social media is you're always looking for the deep purpose and starting there. And it seems like people tend to try to work backwards, which is really not very authentic. And you shared something yesterday, I think it was, about using, brands try to use fancy language to describe what they do rather than just using plain language to describe what they do, but being awesome with the experience.
That's right, yeah.
So one of the reasons I wanted to chat with you today is because you sent this really cool, what you called it, in reverse journaling, monthly musings, introspection activity. And I'm in a Lean In group. For those people who are watching that aren't familiar with that, it's based off of the book Lean In, and we have a group of women who have been meeting every month for, I think we're getting close to 3 years now. And every month we talk about something different, and we have cool people either come visit us or Skype in, or more often we just kind of lead the discussion within the group, but we look at interesting videos or articles. And so when I received this a couple months ago, I thought it was a perfect fit for my group, but then also realized this has really much larger implications. And so I thought this would be a good way for you to share about this activity with a larger audience.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity.
Talk to me a little bit about why you came up with this activity.
Well, I think that introspection is a massively underutilized resources that we humans have. When the lion eats the gazelle doesn't go, "Why me?" And then if the lion misses the lion doesn't say, "Why me?" So there's probably some liberty to lack of introspection. But we live with very little space between our hearts and our minds, and a little discernment there. And introspection allows us to look inward for things that I believe that the heart is telling you. And introspection allows you to bring pause to decision making. It allows you to shift from impulse to initiative. It allows you to shift from being so data-driven that you lose the power of intuition. We have this extraordinary set of gifts that separates us from the rest of the food chain, not our intelligence, but our ability to look inward and ability to create initiative and ability to have initiative. And I think we get busy with life and we create future attachment to things and people, and we forget to look inside. I think a lot of people are terrified to look inside too.
Why do you think that is?
Well, mostly men. because it's so much easier to create a veneer than it is to do real work. And men in particular, when I coach men, they really are challenged by the idea that they have to look inward, and they only tend to do it when stuff stops working. If they're something in their body stops working, their business stops working, relationship stops working, then suddenly they're very introspective. It's like people who find Jesus in prison. I always thought, well, maybe you should find Jesus before you go to prison. There's some introspection. That was not a religious statement. And so most people, we've been taught to, unfortunately, to sort of look outward to the future, look for our identity in relationships and in jobs. And this is why when people have a change of status in a relationship or they lose their job, they don't know themselves because they never spend any time with themselves. And I think part of that is a lot of people struggle to discern the difference between a distraction and an action too. Mm-hmm. And introspection helps you understand that some things are distractions. Sometimes it's okay. If you want to watch 6 episodes in a row of Always Sunny in Philadelphia on Netflix, you should do that. But it's your prerogative to do that. But introspection would show that that's a distraction, not an action.
Mm-hmm. And I think people tend to think there's not enough time to take part in introspection. And we forget that there actually is, even if you have a crazy busy life, which I feel like I do right now, yes. there is always time for it. And actually it makes the rest of your day, week, and month, and year more effective and productive.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes, it's a Buddhist saying, is we should all spend 20 minutes a day in nature unless we're busy, and then we should spend an hour. And it's very similar to introspection, of looking inward. And at a minimum viable introspection that anyone can do is a sensory audit of the 6 senses. So sitting in traffic, sitting in the space between meetings, the place right before you go to sleep, is just do a sensory audit of sight, sound, taste, touch, feel, and what your heart is saying. Even that exercise alone is going to give you insight into internal insight that you're missing by just being constantly in fire mode. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, and I feel like it's kind of a muscle that you have to work.
Oh yeah.
One of the things I love about being your friend is that you send me these TPQs, thought-provoking questions, every so often. And sometimes it's really, you sent me one last week I still don't have an answer to.
Yeah.
So
it was a doozy.
It was a doozy. But I think that that's something you get better at over time. The more that you kind of get in tune with what your heart's telling you, the easier it is to access that in the moment.
I think part of it too, from an entrepreneurial or leadership standpoint, is ultimately our goal as a leader, and we're all leaders at something, is to add value to the world and then shape how other people see us so that our value is known. Mm-hmm. But that begins internally. The arborist or the orchardist does not work on the fruit. He or she works on the root, which is why we called our company Root and River, because we begin at the root of a brand, which is in the hearts of the leaders. The other thing is, too, is that I think we all sort of know we're supposed to speak to people at a heart level, but how do you connect with other people's hearts if you don't know your own? How does that work? It doesn't. And that's why they call it mindfulness. I'm not a big fan of that term, nor the process, because it's not really mindfulness, it's heartfulness. The mind is a muddy, muddy river, but the heart is pretty clear about what it wants, and the heart tends to speak in absolutes. The heart tends to just say yes or no. The heart rarely says maybe.
What advice do you have for somebody who feels really disconnected from their heart and really understanding kind of what they want?
Yeah, I think I struggle with that a lot. And I always go back to the beginning. I go back to the root, and I go back to the things that I feel like have always been there. So before parents and society and belief systems, other people's belief systems were poured into us as vessels, there was stuff that was in there before, in my view. Go back to those things. So to me, it's what I refer to as my wildness. I've always been fascinated with maps and adventure and discovery. That's always been there. It's always gotten me in trouble. When I was in grade school, I was like, Justin is disruptive. And when I was in a corporate job, I was told I was not a team player. And that's because I was far more interested in what was going on that had not already been planned.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go back to that space. And for me, it's spending time in nature. Also, I spend a lot of time in sort of warrior state. I'm constantly fighting for ideas, fighting for time, fighting against fear, and looking inward. There is no fight. There's no fight. That's why I like to go to nature. There's no fight in nature. You're just out there and you're part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But to your question directly, you got to go back to what's always been there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're not going to find it from another human, in my opinion. That's why I hate the phrase "my better half." Well, you're not a half. I hope you're not a half. I know maybe they're trying to be funny, but it is our sovereign responsibility to be a whole person so that the world sees who we really are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I've noticed the times when you feel like you're getting to, I don't know what the word is, maybe comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen you disrupt your life to get
Mm-hmm.
back to that core.
Right.
And I think that's a great example for your clients and for the people that you're leading through thought. So
yeah, it makes me a pain in the butt to be married to, and probably
your wife's a good
times,
sport, though.
yeah, and I'm probably agitating to my business partner who, but she's got much of the same spirit, so it works out.
You guys are a good match. So tell me a little bit about how people should use this document. Is it a beginning of the month type of thing? How often do you check back in with it?
Yeah, so the concept of reverse journaling is I'm always a little nervous about future attachment. The future is an illusion, and so that's why I don't like. I was asked this question the other day at a workshop. What kind of goal setting do I do? I don't do goal setting. I set intention and I have a vision in mind where I want to go, but I don't attach specific goals to it because it removes the flexibility of staying true to what the heart wants. And so what I think is highly flexible, this approach, but what I use it for, reverse journaling, is I go back and I re-examine the week against the things that I wanted to accomplish. I guess those are sort of like goals, but but mostly what did I learn, and how will I apply what I learned to the following week, and how will I almost look at it as I coached youth football for 15 years. It's a little bit like game film. You go watch the film so you can get better, so you can improve. And where did I feel low? Where did I feel high? Where did I make a mistake? Where did I learn something? Where did I have a blind spot? That's all a form of introspection. And the final thought to this is, in reverse, how do I feel today? And how did the behaviors and feelings I have lead me to this moment? Because what I don't want to do is ever lose connection to that I have control over my choices, and I do have control over my decision making, and I want to attach some accountability to that decision making.
That's great.
I think everyone's behavior profile and psychological profile is going to use reverse journaling a little differently, but it really boils down to looking backwards so that you can map a little bit of looking forwards.
Awesome. So is there anything you can leave us with before we end this great discussion and people go off and work on their reverse journaling?
Yeah, two things. Beware of anyone that tells you to not listen to your heart. Or they just beware of that. The second thing is don't attach shame to boredom. Because as soon as you start to attach shame to boredom or lack of passion, then you begin on this journey, on this short-term little distraction to try to alleviate that feeling. And so it's to accept it as it is. You're doing work that you don't necessarily like to do in the moment. Maybe it's a tedious client project, or it's business, doing your taxes or something that's just not that fun. Is basically to acknowledge that it sucks. and don't try to extract interest from it. As one of my own sayings is, you can't boil a stone and call it soup. And so we're taught we're supposed to have gratitude about everything. Yeah, we should have gratitude about things that give us gratitude. Mm-hmm. Then when you're around other people, the other people in your life is basically it's to protect the sovereignty of your own heart. And if someone begins to tell you to doubt your own heart, I think that might be the most dangerous person on the planet, because the heart does not lie. Your heart will tell you what to do, unless you don't have a heart. That's a whole separate recording.
Personality disorder
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, then you run for president. So.
Oh, that's so great, Justin. So where can people go to learn more about you and what you do?
Well, for companies that want to be branded, you can go to rootandriver.com. And for personal coaching for entrepreneurs, you can go to fosterthinking.com. And Foster Thinking is also my Twitter and Instagram handle as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
your
thank
time.
you for this. I love your questions, and you make me think. And every time we talk, I'm happier.
Oh,
so that's
well,
nice.
Likewise. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.